New data from federal regulators this morning revealed a 10% increase last year in teen driving deaths. There are more than one and a half times more likely than adults to be involved in a deadly crash. Chris Van Cleve is at a driving school in Lockville, Maryland, with that new survey showing teenagers' top mistakes. Chris, this is such an important story. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Gail. You know, driving schools like this one aim to make drivers safer on the roads, but they're finding often new drivers are showing up with bad habits. Now, adults say 8 in 10 admit to driving while on their phones. That's more than teens. When it comes to speeding, going 15 over the limit or more, about half of adults and half of teens admit to doing it. When you take inexperience, add speed and distraction, that can turn deadly. Donovan Tesmer was about to start his senior year of high school. While out with his friends, the teen's girlfriend was speeding, lost control, and hit a tree. Donovan wasn't wearing a seatbelt. He was ejected and killed instantly.
Crash has a date, but the pain doesn't have a time frame.
His mother, Martha.
I can't even describe what it felt like in that moment to be standing on a crash site, looking down at a yellow tarp, knowing that my son was underneath it, but also knowing that the young driver would have never done anything to hurt us on purpose.
Almost a decade later, speeding remains the top mistake teens make behind the wheel. Of the nearly 14,000 fatal crashes involving teen drivers over the last 5 years, more than 4,200 involve speed.
I think one of the kind of disturbing things is that it's not getting any better.
Tamara Johnson from AAA says its survey found parents were often more guilty of bad driving than their teens. 65% of driving instructors complained parents were worse at teaching their children to drive than a decade ago.
When parents set stricter rules for their teen before they get behind the wheel, those teens typically have less crashes.
After speed, the most common mistake teens make is distracted driving.
I thought it was Snapchatting, actually, because he had it up like this. But he said he was texting me.
For that violation, Christian Castellano got a ticket.
Do you text and drive a lot?
Normally, no, because my mom got on to me when I first started driving, and so after that, I kind of quit doing it. And then I was running late because I get my oil changed.
The third big mistake is not properly scanning the road for hazards. This teen fails to notice another car running the red light.
Whoa, stop!
More new research out this morning, funded by Ford, finds a full third of teens are waiting until 18 or older to get their driver's licenses, and then they're no longer subject to graduated licensing laws, which may be resulting in more fatal crashes. Graduated licensing laws place limits on young drivers and have been credited with cutting crash risk by up to 30%. Nora?
Chris, thank you. That's interesting. Yeah, that because you want to practice safe driving so you can get your full license and drive it whatever time
It's
you
a
want.
big problem. And also the teenagers don't ride in a car alone. Quite often they have a lot of kids in the car with them. They're playing the radio. But I go back and forth about whether it's good for parents to teach their kids. I hired a retired police officer because I think we parents have a tendency to yell, and by we I mean me. And I didn't think I was helping the situation. So I think
You weren't the best teacher.
No, I was not the best teacher with driving. So sometimes I think it's better to have an objective person who's experienced, who is not going to...
Yeah, but you were probably modeling good behavior. You were not out there being a speed demon out there, right?
That's what
No, I didn't.
Exactly, yeah. I mean,
I drove better.